Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown. Joining me is Andrew Meadows. Andrew, how have you been?
I've been pretty good, man. It's been a pretty exciting week for me. I've made some purchases for my bedroom I'm pretty excited about. And we watched Murder on the Orient Express this week, which was entertaining enough. I thought it was a pretty good movie. How about you? How's your week been?
It's the first 3-day weekend I've had off in a little bit, so I enjoyed that. Made a trip out to Universal Studios in Orlando, and I've just kind of been taking it easy since then. But yeah, Murder on the Orient Express, I agree. Pretty fun movie. I saw it earlier today. They were recording it, obviously. So it's actually a pretty busy news week overall, and I kind of want to start with a topic that we've touched on briefly, both in terms of Harvey Weinstein and in terms of Kevin Spacey, I believe last week that we talked about. There's been yet another flood of sexual harassment and assault allegations that have been levied against various actors, execs, or producers, anything of that nature in Hollywood, and actually at least one outside of the sphere of Hollywood as well. But honestly, we could spend an entire episode probably going super in depth with a lot of these, but I don't think it's totally necessary for us personally to get into it. But I did want to at least mention some of these names that have been put out there, because there's a lot of really surprising names and some that hit close to home for me. So probably the biggest one that we've heard about is Louis C.K., who's been accused by, I think, 5 women of sexual misconduct. He's actually owned up to it. It's probably the biggest thing between him and the others. Everyone's pretty much been in deny mode or deflect mode, as was in the playbook for Kevin Spacey, right? But Louis C.K. did own up to it and say, yeah, he's made mistakes in the past and he's hoping to learn from it. So, like I said, I don't want to get too in-depth with it. There's plenty of coverage on the internet if you want to get some more information on him and then some of these other names I'm going to mention. So, moving on, Steven Seagal.
No surprise there.
I mean, I don't want to point the finger at anyone, but yeah, Steven Seagal is kind of been a notorious shitbag forever. So... Right, yeah, I mean, I guess, it's par for the course, I suppose. But George Takei, definitely a shocker there.
Absolutely.
Brett Ratner, notoriously terrible director, but now he's a notoriously terrible person. And this one's interesting because I guess Ratner's production company was attached to the Wonder Woman film, and Gal Gadot has basically come out and said that if Ratner doesn't remove himself from any sort of future productions that she's personally going to be involved in, that she will not reprise her role of Wonder Woman, which is, I mean, if you're Warner Brothers DC at this point, pretty easy call to make is to get rid of the shitbag and keep your star actress on board. But that's a developing story right now. David Giard, who's a producer on Atomic Blonde, which was one of the first movies we covered on this podcast, also accused. Jeffrey Tambor, Arrested Development. He's on Amazon Studios' Transparent. That one was kind of a bit of a vague allegation that he's also denied. Charlie Sheen, Robert Knepper, who is an actor on Prison Break. He's actually been involved in a couple of the CW shows as the Clock King. Ed Westwick, who was a main character on Gossip Girl, has been accused of rape by, I think, at least 2 separate sources at this point.
Damn.
And this one for me, not Ed Westwick, Matthew Weiner, creator, showrunner of Mad Men, my favorite show of all time, was accused of harassment by an ex-writer on the show. So that's one that definitely is kind of like, I mean, for as seemingly progressive as something like Mad Men was, as far as trying to bring light to a lot of issues that were at hand and the time period in which it took place, it's kind of shocking to see something like that come out.
That's like George Takei.
Yeah, George Takei.
Yeah, it's like him. You know what I mean? As progressive as he is, to be batched up in the list of these people it's a shocking thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Andrew Kreisberg, who's a showrunner on both The Flash and Supergirl, I think there was 19 separate sources that are accusing him of harassment. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And I'm a defender of these CW shows, and that just kind of makes me sick to my stomach to think that someone like this, who I actually, I listened to a podcast that Kevin Smith did with him, and he seemed like a good guy. And obviously he's been hiding a lot of nefarious activities and CW has already suspended him, so CW is at least taking care of business in that regard, but still, it does kind of make me pause and think about what I've been watching and how he's managed to get away with something like that for so long, along with basically everyone on this list, of course.
Right.
And then lastly, outside of Hollywood, as I mentioned before, is Republican Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore, who's been accused by at least 4 women of unwanted sexual advances or sexual assault. And other women have come forward stating that Moore pursued romantic relationships with them when they were as young as 16 and Moore was in his 30s. So Moore has denied the sexual assault allegations, but has made no mention of the latter allegations. And he's still planning on running for Senate. So in the interest of staying apolitical here, I'm just going to leave it at that. You guys can Google any of those names if you want to see some more details on kind of what they've been accused of or anything along those lines, any actions that companies involved with them or anything have been taken. So, keep them coming. If there's more people committing acts like this, then get those names in the headlines because it's not okay. And just, I guess, to kind of follow on to that, not only these names we just mentioned, but also our story from last week as far as Kevin Spacey, the allegations against him, and his exit from House of Cards. He's also been jettisoned from another project that he's working on or has been working on, and is basically finished, which is All the Money in the World.
That's the one with Kevin Spacey's makeup, right?
Right, yeah. I think we might have mentioned this at least one time on one of our episodes, in the sense that Kevin Spacey's buried under this horrible, horrible makeup to play J. Paul Getty. And basically, this movie is set for release in December 22nd, so it's just over a month away. And Ridley Scott, the director of that, and this is going to be weird for me to admit that Ridley Scott's making a good decision, but Ridley Scott has decided that he is going to remove Kevin Spacey from this movie and refilm every scene involving his character, with Christopher Plummer coming aboard to basically take this role of J. Paul Getty from Spacey. So they're going to be doing reshoots on this. I guess from what I can tell, he wasn't in the movie too much. He was kind of a more of a background figure, I guess, through the plot of the movie. So it's going to take about 8 to 10 days is what they estimate to reshoot everything. But they're bringing back some of the principal members of the cast. Michelle Williams, Mark Wahlberg are coming back for these reshoots. They've pretty much got to redo all the marketing materials because everything's kind of had Spacey's hideous makeup face attached to everything.
It's got to cost them so much money. How much money do you think it's cost them?
Well, there's actually a report on that from Variety saying that it's probably going to cost at least $10 million on top of their already pre-existing production and marketing budget to make this happen. So yeah, they're spending a pretty penny to do this, and I think a lot of the motivation of it sounds like they have aspirations for Oscars and such like that, and having that cloud of Kevin Spacey's name attached to it is it's a sinking ship. It's an already sunken ship, really, at this point. So again, I feel weird saying good on you to Ridley Scott because I think I've spent quite a few instances on this very podcast decrying everything that he does, but this is definitely a good decision. I don't know how the hell they're going to get this thing out in a month's time, and it just seems like delaying it would probably be the best way to handle this.
Let me ask you this though: would it be his call to do this, or would it be the production company or the producer's call to do something like this?
No, this is Ridley Scott's decision. Straight from the Deadline article says that director Ridley Scott, along with Imperative Entertainment's Dan Friedkin and Bradley Thomas, have decided. So obviously it wasn't totally a unilateral decision, but it definitely came from Ridley Scott as something that needs to be done, and it's the right decision.
Man, Kevin Spacey fucked up, man.
Yeah, it's putting it mildly. All right, so moving on. It's funny. We talked last week very briefly about Disney basically owning the world. And
do we ever talk briefly about Disney? I feel like that's
that's true. I think it was actually kind of a tangent onto what we were talking about at the time. I don't even remember what that was. I just remember the side conversation of Disney, like Disney this, Disney that. But we're going to do it again because apparently Disney has been in talks, and these have been ongoing, I guess, for a while, to purchase many assets from 21st Century Fox. So it would include their movie studio and some other assets. It would not include the news, like Fox News, their network, and local broadcast stations and such. So it's kind of a piecemeal deal as it's proposed. But right now, or at least at the time that this article was released on the 6th of November, so almost a week ago at this point, it was saying that the talks had stalled and that the two sides aren't talking anymore to make this happen. But there is an article from just a couple days ago on the 10th that says that, quote unquote, the pencils aren't down. I mean, you think about the big movie studios. I mean, Fox is up there. I mean, you could say all you want about the quality of their content, and rightfully so, but still, a mega deal on this level.
It's huge.
The repercussions for it. I mean, speaking just kind of on things that we're interested in, I mean, you're talking about X-Men coming home to Marvel, potentially. Fantastic Four coming home to Marvel, potentially.
Fuck, Fantastic Four, dude.
The rights for A New Hope coming back to Disney, because the distribution rights for A New Hope are still actually tied up with Fox. So people have always been kind of clamoring for, hey, I'm tired of the special edition bullshit for Star Wars. Give me the real thing. And that's kind of always been kind of the one hurdle between that, is that Disney would have to work out some sort of compensation deal to get the rights to distribute the original form of A New Hope. So, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves on this, but there's definitely some cool shit that could happen if this deal ever comes to transpire that I would be pretty excited about.
I mean, I can't think of anything I wouldn't be excited about. I mean, they have some really good properties that they could have Disney could have a field day with and put out some really good shit with, you know?
Yeah, I mean, certainly in terms of quality of content, I've been much more confident in Disney's output than I've been in Fox's output in recent years.
In fact, I would say it would be the complete opposite. Everything Disney puts out, I have a reason to be excited about it. Everything Fox puts out, I have a reason to be completely skeptical about it. You know what I mean?
Right, sure.
So, I don't know. Sell that shit, Fox. Collects a lot of money and just be done with it and start some new shit. That's what I say.
Yeah, well, I think if something like this happens, it's probably a good ways off at this point, even if it does happen. So, I don't know. We'll keep tabs on this. If we get any more information on this front, we'll definitely be updating all our listeners with it. Because, this is groundbreaking, potentially. I mean, could turn out to be a nothing burger as well. But in other movie news, looks like Universal might be in trouble with their Dark Universe, which, for the uninformed, is basically their... which basically is another attempt at a monster verse. Dracula, Mommy, Wolfman, Frankenstein, all those exactly. So basically, the two top producers that have kind of been trying to spearhead this whole operation have exited. So this kind of leaves the future of this whole universe in jeopardy, I would say. I mean, it already got off to a terrible start. I'm sure all our listeners know exactly what we're referencing there, but just in case, we'll clarify and say that was Tom Cruise's The Mummy, which was released earlier this year.
Did you actually see it?
I did see The Mummy. Now, I saw it for free, admittedly, but oh yeah, it was real shit.
Recommend that for streaming or recommend that for Blu-ray?
I would recommend you wait till you get paid to see it.
God damn, that's bad.
I mean, there's parts of it that are fine, but on the whole, no good, man. No good. Like I said, I saw it for free, and I'm like, well, there's other things I could have done with those 2 hours. But to be fair, my options at that point were to go see that or the newest Transformers movie, which I feel haven't actually seen the newest Transformers movie, but I feel it's probably still worse. Anyway, back to this dark universe. So yeah, The Mummy didn't do really well financially, certainly didn't do well critically. Universal was trying to get a Bride of Frankenstein movie started up as kind of the second entry in this universe, which they were in pre-production on it, and then they said, all right, let's hold off on this for a little while. Let's get this sorted out. So that's still reportedly going to happen. We'll kind of see what happens with that. It might be the same thing as when the Fantastic Four sequel to that Josh Trank one, the newest one, they kept saying for the longest time that they were going to do it. Oh yeah, it's still happening. It's not happening. So it kind of sounds like this whole universe is dead in the water. And it's funny because, I mean, they literally just did this shit. Like, The Mummy was their, probably not even really their second attempt, but they did Dracula Untold, I think maybe 2013, something around those years.
Yeah. Was that the Wolfman with Anthony Hopkins? Was that supposed to be in the same universe or no?
I don't think so, but I don't know. Again, that could have been another attempt And then they were just like, nope, we gotta start over again. And then they tried the Dracula. Nope, we gotta start over again. We got the Mummy out. Oh, yeah, nope, we gotta start over again. It's pretty impressive how spectacularly they fucked this up. And I think it's especially funny in the case of the Mummy, because the Mummy had this Dark Universe logo that played before the beginning of the movie, like trying to get like people excited about like, look, it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe, except it's Universal monsters, and everyone's just like, nah, we're good, fam.
Which is, I mean, it's almost disappointing because I don't know how I feel about admitting this, but the Brendan Fraser Mummy, I love that shit. I ate that shit up. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I thoroughly enjoyed the first Mummy.
First one's good fun. I mean, the second two, maybe not so much. And the Scorpion King spinoff as well.
Yeah, I don't like them as much, you know. Scorpion King was terrible. But aside from that, I could eat that shit up. I really like Dracula. I like the whole idea of Dracula. And Wolfman. I mean, werewolves in London and all that shit. That's all awesome stuff. And I don't know why it would be so difficult for them to reinvent those things. You know what I mean? But for some reason, they redid The Mummy, and I had no interest in seeing that shit. It looked terrible. So hopefully they can figure it out, because I would enjoy seeing these movies redone.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's definitely potential there. There's no reason that they can't make these work, but I think it's certainly in the case of this perhaps feeble attempt to launch the Dark Universe, is that I think they just got way ahead of themselves. They released this cast photo in May where they're like, it's got Tom Cruise, it's got Javier Bardem, it's got Johnny Depp. And they already had Russell Crowe and Sofia Boutella from The Mummy at the time, and even The Mummy had like the whole bullshit with Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
I would take that shit too.
Well, I mean, it's already in The Mummy, so you can see it if you want it. He's in there. He's Russell Crowe about.
What I was referencing was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Was he doing that shit?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Oh, fucking cool. Was it cool?
No, it's terrible. It's awful. It's just absolute garbage. Like his Mr. Hyde is like, there's like a vein like that pops out on his forehead, and then he just has this ridiculous over the top Cockney accent. That's it.
What a shame. I tell you something I'm really excited about.
Yeah? What's that?
It's Rian Johnson to get his own Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah, this is a pretty big bombshell of an announcement.
This shit's bonkers, man.
Yeah, so just to kind of let our listeners in on it, Disney, or Lucasfilm, I guess, rather, has announced that Rian Johnson, the writer and director of Star Wars The Last Jedi, will be taking the reins on an entirely new Star Wars trilogy that's going to be set separately from the Skywalker saga, and quote-unquote, he's going to introduce new characters from a corner of the galaxy that Star Wars lore has never before explored.
Oh, fuck. What's it mean?
Well, I imagine we won't know for a little while.
God damn it. Let it be Thrawn. Let it be Thrawn.
Well, that wouldn't be a new character.
Well, it would be a new... Well, I guess it wouldn't be new because he's in the animated series. But, I don't know, man. Fucking Rian Johnson. Get his own trilogy. The only person that's ever done his own trilogy in Star Wars is what? Filoni? Dave Filoni has done his own stuff. He's got his own, 4-series arc, plus he was attached to Clone Wars, but then...
let's think about other people that might have directed their own trilogy in Star Wars.
Besides fucking Lucas...
Okay, there we go. Let's start with the obvious one.
Lucas is the obvious one, but he's a pilot. I mean, what the fuck? You don't want to talk about Lucas. His movies were shit.
I believe George Lucas directed a little movie called Star Wars, which was then retitled to Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. I recall that one being pretty good.
That one was okay. He also directed Episode 1.
Did you just say Star Wars Episode 4 is okay?
No, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean,
okay.
I am more of a Empire Strike. I love Empire Strikes Back. That's my shit.
I agree. Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars film, but to merely say that the original Star Wars is a quote-unquote okay implies that you are far drunker than I believed you were.
No, man, it's pretty good. I mean, I like it. Don't get me wrong, but Empire Strikes Back is not only an excellent movie, but it's got all the Star Wars shit that Lucas come up with. Of course, Lucas is, he came up with all the shit, but it's an excellent movie at the same time.
And so is Star Wars. Yes, I agree.
I don't know. Empire Strikes Back's far superior than Star Wars, in my opinion.
Far superior, no. Superior, yes, but no, that's a bridge too far, sir. A bridge too far. You are incorrect.
We're going to get on a Star Wars tangent again for another 15 minutes.
Well, that's usually what happens, but All right, I'll bring it back on course. I mean, there's really not much else to add on this. We won't know probably details on what this is going to entail for a good amount of time, I would imagine. But it's an exciting announcement, and it's one for me that speaks volumes about the quality of Star Wars: The Last Jedi, because it's not out yet. So for Lucasfilm to come out and say that we're going to get the guy that did the movie we're about to put out and have him come back and do 3 more.
Start a new trilogy. Not only do 3 more, but start his own shit.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
To me, it implies that Lucasfilm is extremely confident in The Last Jedi. And, what studio shouldn't be confident in their own material, but at the same time, perhaps there are instances in the past where studios have tried to distance themselves from their projects, and clearly Lucasfilm is not attempting to do anything along that lines at all here. They're saying, yeah, this shit's awesome. We're going to make more awesome shit with the guy that made that awesome shit that's about to come out, and you're going to love it too.
Imagine how it feels to be Rian Johnson, dude. You make a movie and they say, listen, you did such an excellent job. We're going to give you 3. You're going to start your own new trilogy. I mean, he has to be incredibly happy, incredibly excited. And like you said, it speaks volumes about what he's fixing to put out with Last Jedi. It's really cool news, man. It's really cool news. Let's get off of Star Wars before we get on a tangent.
We can get into some other really cool news. Black Panther.
Back to Disney.
Yeah, Disney. Marvel Studios has released a series of character posters for Black Panther, and these are some fucking excellent posters, I gotta say. I mean, we got one pretty much for every principal player in the movie, from Black Panther himself to the Dora Milaje, Shuri, his sister, Andy Serkis as Claw. Some cool shit in here, and I think these posters are actually really stylish too.
I like the little things on the.
They got like little taglines for each character.
Yeah.
It's a nice little touch. It kind of makes it feel a cut above your generic movie posters that you often get. Even Marvel Studios especially is guilty of putting out some less than stellar posters. Yeah, these are really nice looking, and I guess probably what makes these posters, because I mean they're pretty simple in their composition. It's a character in costume, tagline, logo, date. That's pretty much it. But I guess what really makes these pop so much is that the visual designs for pretty much all these characters are just fucking excellent to begin with. Just the actual the design that we see for a lot of the Wakandan garb and anything along those lines, like it's colorful and it looks really cool. So, Black Panther, man, February. It's 3 months away. It's just crazy to think about.
It's going to be so good.
I think Marvel Studios is set to continue their unprecedented run of success. Got anything else to add on those Black Panther posters? You have a favorite one?
I actually really like, what is his name? Is his name Michael Jordan?
Michael B. Jordan?
Yeah, his People's Rage. I like that. I'm incredibly excited about Black Panther, though.
Yeah, did you get your traditional African garb ready so you can bring in opening night?
I actually ordered traditional African garb. Are you going to be embarrassed to watch it with me in IMAX?
No, it's fine.
We should dress up together. Holy shit.
No. No, I'm good.
Oh, fuck. We'd get beat up. We'd get beat up if we showed up in that shit to watch a movie. Anyways, moving on.
Moving on, we got another poster for another Marvel movie, and that is Deadpool 2, which is a parody of one of Norman Rockwell's paintings. It's called Freedom from One, is the original painting. So it's basically the principal characters of Deadpool at a Thanksgiving dinner table with Deadpool holding the turkey. What did you think about this poster we got?
The poster's pretty humorous. I like it. It speaks volumes about the tone of the movie we're going to be getting. I like the little Stan Lee in the top right corner as well.
That's a good touch.
And Brolin looks like a badass. And I don't know. Like I said, it speaks volumes about the tone.
Yeah, it doesn't really show us anything new as far as things we haven't seen. It's, we see that fucking Dopender, the taxi driver, is apparently in the movie enough for him to get a spot on the poster as part of this Thanksgiving dinner, which is pretty funny. But we got Vanessa, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Blind Owl, Colossus, Weasel, Domino, Brolin and Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool to kind of round out the cast. So it's a fun cast, fun group of people. I mean, I would have Thanksgiving dinner with these folks personally.
I mean, on the food alone, it's a good looking turkey.
It is. Yeah, it's good stuff. Excited about that. Other superhero movie news. Shazam. We have yet another bit of casting for this. So Billy Batson, the boy who is capable of transforming into Captain Marvel or Shazam.
Little Shazam.
And he's not Little Shazam. He's Billy Batson. He's going to be portrayed by Asher Angel, which is a name that I've never spoken out loud before because I have no idea who this person is. But apparently, he was on the Disney Channel series Andy Mack, which I'm sure is excellent.
Yeah, Jonah Beck. He played Jonah Beck in Andy Mack. I've seen Andy Mack.
All right, well, I'll let you vouch for its quality then. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say, given that I don't know who this person is and I've never seen them in anything. But cast is shaping up, right?
That's it. They feel confident in little Andy Mack's or Asher Angel's capabilities, so we'll see what happens.
Who are we to question them on it, right?
Absolutely.
All right, I think that's pretty much it for our movie news for this week. So moving into the world of television, we have a costume reveal for Jodie Whittaker's Doctor from Doctor Who. So I feel like I probably should have done my research on this. I think she must be the 13th Doctor. Does that sound right? I know you're not a big Doctor Who guy.
No, I think the last Doctor Who I saw was the one that wore the leather trench coat kind of deal, which I think was the first season of the relaunch of Doctor Who.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I just Google confirmed it. She is the 13th Doctor. So my experience with Doctor Who, just for reference, is I think I watched the one season that Christopher Eccleston did as, I guess he would have been the 9th Doctor, and then I watched all of the David Tennant stuff as the 10th Doctor, which is really good stuff, and then I watched one season of Matt Smith's 11th Doctor, and so I think there's a few seasons of Matt Smith's Doctor that I haven't watched, and then Peter Capaldi was the 12th Doctor for a few seasons as well, so I'm a good ways behind on Doctor Who, but it's on my list. It's good stuff, and so kind of bringing this back, Jodie Whittaker was cast as the first female Doctor, which was pretty awesome. And so we got to kind of look at what she's going to be wearing as her traditional Doctor Who outfit. Everyone's kind of got their own unique take on it. And I really like what she's wearing here. She's pretty stylish. She's got these high-waisted trousers, nice blue color with some suspenders. She's got like a little rainbow shirt going on and a cool coat. It's cool. I think she looks cool.
Yeah, she looks like a
I wouldn't be able to pull that shit off, but...
No, she could pull it off. It looks like a time-traveling person. If I saw somebody wearing that shit down the side of the road, I'd question what they were wearing. It looks different is what it looks. But it doesn't look bad. It looks cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. I say it's quirky and unique.
I like the suspenders, though. I definitely like the suspenders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that brings it all together. Colors on it pop. I think it's I like it a lot. Doctor Who is on my list. I would like to catch up at some point. I don't know when that will happen, but I'm definitely interested in this new reincarnation of the Doctor. I think this is pretty cool. I think I've only seen Jodie Whittaker, and I think she was in one of the episodes of Black Mirror. I think it's kind of been my only exposure to her. Actually, no, I take that back. She was in Attack the Block, which is fucking excellent. I don't know if have you seen that? That's Joe Cornish directed that. It's got John Boyega in it.
I never saw Attack the Block. You recommend?
I do recommend. Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely worth checking out. Yeah, Doctor Who's cool. I thought we were done talking about Star Wars. I totally forgot what I put into our television segment. All right, let me back this up just a little bit so I can provide context for what we're about to talk about. Bob Iger, who is the chairman of Disney, basically during the company's quarterly earnings call, confirmed that Disney's putting together a streaming platform that will be exclusive Disney content, and he confirmed basically that of the few things that will be launching with this platform are TV adaptations of Monsters, Inc., a Pixar film, High School Musical, and things that interest us more so are an original series from Marvel and a live-action Star Wars television show.
Fuck yes. Give me that shit all day long.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like Disney's trying to expand the Star Wars universe in a big bad way between that trilogy that Rian Johnson's developing and now a live-action show. And we'll almost certainly have another animated show from Filoni coming after Rebels concludes with its current season.
I will subscribe to Disney's shit. I will.
Yeah, I will. I'm definitely well on board for this. Between a Marvel show and a Star Wars show, take all my money.
And presumably all their animated shit as well,
those two things are enough to get me to hand over my credit card information personally. We don't have any real details on both either the Star Wars show or the other Marvel show, but I'm interested. And until we get details that tell us otherwise, I'm definitely well into it, and look forward to kind of seeing what that amounts to.
Absolutely. Did you see the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. promo?
I did. Yeah, I'm sure you watched it as you were watching the Marvels and Humans finale, right?
Absolutely. That's how I stumbled across it.
Yeah, I figured as much, but I just wanted to confirm.
Fuck no. I looked it up online 2 minutes before this show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
Well, just for your information, that is where this originally aired. So, Marvels and Humans had its finale. You know, it came and it went very quietly into the night. And they at least threw some of the fans that stuck around for it a bit of a bone by giving it a 1-minute promo for this upcoming season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which looks pretty fucking bonkers.
Yeah, it looks fucking cool, man. Just like all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is an incredible show. And I'm kind of, like I said before in a previous episode, I like things to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay, and then find something new. But at the same time, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D's ramped up to be an excellent show, and I'm kind of sad to see it go.
Well, I mean, fret not. It hasn't been officially canceled yet, but this is almost certainly going to be its last season.
Oh, I thought it was confirmed that this was the last season. I'm sorry.
No, just speculation based on the fact that if you're going off ratings and such, then it probably shouldn't have gotten a fifth season at all. But
it looks good.
I will echo your sentiment and say that I'm very, very happy that we're getting another season. And if this does, in fact, turn out to be the last season, then I hope that they can wrap it up in a very satisfying manner. That, you know, obviously we're kind of always going to be wanting for more, but there's also something to be said for giving your show a proper send-off. And so if it works out that way, then I hope we get that. I mean, they pulled them off Earth. They're on some sort of space station or something like that. We've got alien things running around. We got Kree running around. We got some Star-Lord looking motherfucker running around.
Yeah, man, it looks fucking cool. Looks cool.
I don't know what's going on, but I love the cast. I think the cast is great. A lot of good chemistry there.
They've been making show for a long time, man.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. And it's funny because this is all kind of space shit that we're seeing, and I'm like, where the fuck was this with Inhumans? You know?
Yeah, no.
Doesn't it seem kind of weird?
Yeah, I don't know.
I do not know either. Anyway, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be back on air December 1st with a 2-hour premiere, and I think it's safe to say that we are both looking forward to it. So, I think it's time that we move on and get into the main topic for this week. So, as you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we're talking about Murder on the Orient Express. Coming to us from director Kenneth Branagh, who also is the main character in the movie. And it's based off of an Agatha Christie detective novel of the same name, one of many of her famous detective novels, none of which I've personally read, of course, but I can look things up on Wikipedia, you know, I've got talents like that. I mean, this is basically about 13 people that end up stranded on this train, the Orient Express. A murder happens in the middle of the night, and it's up to Kenneth Branagh's character, the detective, Hercule Poirot. Poirot? Whatever. Poirot. Let's go with... No, Poirot. I think I got it that time. Perfect. Anyway, it's up to him to figure out who did it before they have the chance to strike again. This is something that's kind of been on my radar for a while. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, ever since that first trailer I saw, I can't remember what movie I saw it in, but I saw the trailer in theaters, and I immediately said I want to cover it. The promotional materials that they put out for this movie were outstanding, and the cinematography that was present in the trailers certainly were present in the movie. I mean, throughout the entire movie, it's a beautiful thing to watch. And I think you brought it up to me in person or we talked about it at some point, but something about the bleak landscapes that when shot on the proper cameras and everything, the bleak, snowy landscapes are beautiful things. I think you pointed it out. It's similar to a movie we covered several weeks ago, Wind River, but star-studded cast. I mean, there's a lot of talent in the movie. I don't think that they get to exercise as much talent as they could. I feel like everybody's kind of limited, with the exception of Hercules or Hercule. Hercule. Okay, yeah. With the exception of him, everybody else is pretty shallow. You don't get a lot of. You don't get a lot of screen time with them, and everybody's motives and reasonings present throughout the entire movie, but it just, like I said, it doesn't really dig deep into any one person in particular. But he does have a pretty ridiculous mustache. Mustache is something to write home about. That and his accent. I really enjoyed his accent.
Well, I mean, the mustache is the real star of the show. We all know this. We can acknowledge the magnificence of that mustache and the little mustache cover that he wears at night to protect his mustache. It's very important. You can't forget that detail. I think you kind of, we kind of covered pretty much everything I need to talk about with this movie in a very short form. So to kind of expand on a lot of the things that you've already mentioned, from the top, the cinematography is absolutely the first thing that stands out to me as probably the defining feature of this movie. And a lot of that is definitely owed to the snowscapes that it depicts, which, as you mentioned, something about that setting in Wind River just really, really struck me, and it happened here too. I think there's just something about that cold color palette that accompanies the snowscapes that really strikes me for some reason. And I think that, I was reading about this movie kind of in preparation for recording this, and I saw that they basically used the only 4 remaining Panavision 65mm cameras in existence to shoot this movie. And most of it was shot, I think, on a set, at least as far as kind of a lot of the pieces with the train. So you still get a lot of these beautiful landscape shots, but then it's also accompanied by these very claustrophobic interior shots of this train. And it's honestly just as beautiful when it's filming within those constraints of the train as it is when it's taking you on a little bit of a ride outside of that to see the sweeping vistas that surround it. And that's absolutely the first thing that struck me, the work here done by the cinematographer Haris Zambarlukos, who previously worked on a couple of Kenneth Branagh's films, Cinderella back in 2015 for Disney, and then actually the first Thor for Marvel Studios back in 2011. Good work then, although maybe perhaps a bit too many Dutch angles in the first Thor, and stellar work here as well.
Here's a question, not to cut you off, but do you think to shoot in a 65mm camera was more cost-effective than shooting in an IMAX 70mm camera?
Cost-effective?
It seems like to get a limited... To seek out the 4 remaining Panavision 65mm camera would be more expensive than acquiring a more readily available 70mm camera.
I don't know. I mean, I think they're probably both expensive and difficult to work with, mostly largely owing to the size. I think that's always kind of been the biggest restriction with using the IMAX cameras, is that you're far more restricted in terms of movements with your camera and stuff like that. And I forget exactly what the scene was. I wish I had the article in front of me right now, but it was kind of an interview with the cinematographer that I mentioned, and he was saying that there's kind of this sequence within this movie, Murder on the Orient Express, where they kind of rigged these 65mm cameras in a way that they're totally not meant to be used at all, so they could get this really amazing shot. I'll actually link that article in our episode description so the readers so our listeners can read along and see what I'm talking about there, because it's worth a read. And I find the technical aspects of something like this very interesting, because you can see that there's a lot of passion put into framing really every shot in this movie. And so that was kind of my big takeaway for this movie. It was the cinematography, the way that it captured the setting, and not just the wilderness, like I said, but also the interiors. So there's a couple shots of just tracking shots of Poirot, Kenneth Branagh's character, as he kind of sweeps through the train, even as he's kind of exiting the train. I think towards the end there's a long kind of tracking shot of him that's really, really beautiful.
Right.
And there's this one particular shot, and I mentioned in our plot summary there's a murder, so I don't feel it's too spoilerific to say that we see the person that has been murdered. And there's this really, really amazing overhead shot that kind of tracks a few people kind of examining the body, and it kind of moves throughout the train, and in this overhead movement from within one compartment, outside of that, down the aisle. It's just a really, really cool touch. I really, really liked something like that. It's not something you see in every movie. It definitely felt like something that they had a particular vision for it, and then they felt the need to really kind of bring that to life.
It's almost I don't know. I don't want to talk down about the movie because I enjoyed it, but it's almost a shame that so many technical aspirations with the cinematography were put in a movie that kind of just landed kind of flat with me. You know what I mean? I didn't really walk away from the movie with anything other than, yeah, this is a really pretty movie. You know, I had a few laughs. The main character was interesting. I can't say that for any of the other characters, though.
Well, if you'll notice, I haven't said anything about anything that's not technically related, and that's purposeful. Because I do agree that for a movie that brings Kenneth Branagh, Daisy Ridley, Penelope Cruz, Johnny Depp, Michelle Pfeiffer, Dame Judi Dench, Willem Dafoe, they bring all those names together and more. It kind of squanders a lot of their talents. It really does, and that's disappointing one. But it's kind of shameful to not utilize some of these amazing talents on board. And it's not to criticize certainly any of the cast members, because everyone's game. You know, everyone definitely delivers a great performance, you know, as they're accustomed to doing. It's just that, as is the case with much of these characters, is they really don't have much meat to the bone for really their roles overall. I would say there's maybe a couple exceptions. Certainly Kenneth Branagh is a bit of a screen hog in this, and that his character is kind of the one that, you know, he's the protagonist, so of course we see him, he interviews everyone, so we see his perspective on everything, and, you know, we get a really great look at him, and, you know, he does a great job, and the mustache is also definitely locking up that Best Actor Oscar nom with this, so...
And pretty much the extent of each character, their characterization is limited to the interviews in which he conducts the interview, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's pretty much the extent of each character. Which it may have been purposeful, but at the same time, you have this cast. I mean, I don't know why you would. I don't know what they paid for casting or anything else. I don't know, but it seems like, all these people they're expensive to acquire. You know what I mean, for this movie. Why would you? I don't know. Like I said, like you said, there's a lot of talent that wasn't really utilized to the fullest extent. You just didn't. They didn't give them a whole lot to work with.
Right. Like I said, I don't certainly don't want to come off as criticizing any of the actors in this film, because again, I think that they all did a good job, certainly with what they were given to work with.
They just weren't given a whole lot.
And yeah, I guess kind of the way you pointed it is that really, with maybe some exceptions, most of the characters really kind of get one interview scene to play with, and that's just not enough to give their character much depth to give them the emotions and the power that those performances should be able to give. Because you look at someone like Judi Dench, and she's just kind of there. She's really just kind of there in this movie.
And I feel that limited characterization that they presented throughout the entire movie was really felt at the end, at the conclusion of the film, and it just kind of left me kind of it didn't leave me confused. It's very evident what happened and everything else, but
it doesn't pack the punch that it should.
Exactly. I had a hard time believing that these characters that they presented us with had such a stake in the game to feel the way that they evidently felt at the end of the movie. So I don't know. How would you? We're gonna try a new metric here. We're gonna try putting our recommendation for the film before the spoilers. But would you recommend this movie to people? Would you recommend they rush out to theaters right now and go watch it?
No. I don't think it's certainly not anything that you need to rush out to the theater for. I will say I do enjoy myself a good train movie, and I thought this was a pretty solid train movie. It's not the finest train movie I've ever seen.
What is the finest train movie you've ever seen?
Ooh, the finest I've ever seen? I don't know. The first one that comes to mind that sticks out to me, and it's probably because it's very snowy landscapes as well. Snowpiercer is the first thing that comes to my mind, and it's a very, very different movie than this. Do not get me wrong.
That is an incredible fucking train movie. I would say that is probably my favorite train movie. I really like Snowpiercer.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Chris Evans is great in it. It's fucking batshit. I don't know what else to say about it. I understand that it's probably kind of a polarizing movie, but for me, it's something that first time I watched it, it just absolutely blew me away.
I put it in a hole.
Yes, that is another train. That is another train movie that is also excellent. It's something we actually watched together, and booyah! The reason we keep saying this this Korean word that neither of us know what it actually means is this is Train to Busan. We should probably get that out there that we're talking about Train to Busan, another train movie, a zombie train movie this time around, which is it's a South Korean film. And Andrew and I, we watched it together at your place, and there was some sort of issue with the Blu-ray syncing the dialogue to the mouths of the actors as we were playing it. So we kept going back to the first scene where there's any sort of spoken dialogue, which is "abuyo." And I swear to God, I mean, how many times? If you had to guess, how many times do you think we heard that fucking line of dialogue?
I would say probably at least an easy 125 times. That's probably putting it.
And I'm trying to remember, like.
We did it for probably 2 hours.
We did, but I know we watched it. Did we just get over it, or did we end up fixing it? Like, I don't even remember. I just remember the process of like, oh God, this is a mess.
We watched it on Blu-ray, and I got fixated on fixing the problem. Eventually, after about an hour and a half to 2 hours of sitting there rewinding and watching it over and over and over again, I ended up putting it in the PlayStation, I think.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, we switched the player.
Fuck that player. Fuck that Xbox, and we just switched.
Fixed it right off the bat. Yep.
Yeah. But what the problem was is I got fixated. There's a problem. I had to fix it. What the fuck's the problem? And I don't think I've ever figured out exactly what the problem was. It was very strange. Either way.
Yeah. And say sorry for that podcast derail. Oh, train puns. Yeah, we got them.
Either way, that's an incredible movie.
It is. Yeah, well, both of those. Yeah, Snowpiercer, Train to Busan, both excellent train movies. But to answer your original question, I feel I did get a little off topic there. Yeah, as far as recommendations for this, I would say it's definitely a wait for Blu-ray movie for me, and in the sense that I think that certainly the Blu-ray format can take advantage of the technical aspects of it, the wonderful cinematography, but there's not really enough substance, I guess I'd say, to the movie to really justify going out and spending your money. Certainly a movie pass would definitely be worth it.
It's a movie pass movie.
Yeah, and the only exception I'd offer up, and this is something that I can't personally vouch for, you can't personally vouch for, and it's something that's only very limited. And this was offered in special engagement 70mm projection where available. So there's very few markets in the United States that offer the 70mm projection. And I think that with the way that this was filmed, with that particular camera that I mentioned, I think that if you saw it in that huge format, I think that it could engross you maybe a lot more than it did for me. And this is something I just remembered, at least for the first half of the movie, it kind of impaired my enjoyment of the movie a bit, is that the audio mixing was very quiet for me. I think it was just a theater thing. I don't think it was anything to do particularly with the movie, but it did. Yeah, it was straining sometimes to hear some of the dialogue. The music was fine. I think that was just kind of a theater experience. So I think that's kind of for me why I'm like, if I could see this in a big screen format, I honestly think that would have helped certainly wow me even more than it did with the technical aspects. And maybe I might have been more forgiving of the everything else, where, this time I was trying to strain to hear some of the dialogue, and it's just kind of, for a movie that's pretty reliant upon that as far as establishing its characters and plot and all that, it kind of felt like this is not getting off on the right foot. But I think I kind of settled into it about halfway through the movie. I kind of got into the flow of it. Maybe my ears just adjusted. Who knows?
Yeah, no, it's just, there's nothing worse than having a bad mix, man. That's the worst.
Yeah, so that was definitely disappointing. But yeah, I mean, like, the movie's solid. Don't get me wrong. I think it's worth your time. And I just think that it's not immediately worth your time. It's just, when you can get a chance on Blu-ray, whether you're renting it, whether you're buying it, I think that I think it's a good solid way to view the movie that way. Where do you land on that?
No, I completely agree. If I didn't have a movie pass, I would have been a little I don't want to say I would have been disappointed, but...
Well, let's say, you mentioned the marketing material. Do you feel that it lived up to that?
No, with the cinematography did, but the interest in the characters and everything did not. Because in the marketing materials, you see a glimpse at the cast, you see a glimpse with the cinematography, and with everything it presents, you're pretty... I was pretty wowed. I was like, well, I gotta see this shit. It looks pretty cool. And the cast is something to really write home about. But 90% of the cast members were sold short. The cinematography delivered. So I could say that I was disappointed. I would have been disappointed if I would have spent theater money to go see it. I've said this before, but my metric with rushing out and seeing something in the theater is it an experience that can only be had in the theater? Do I carve out some of my time to drive across town to Tampa? In this case, I drive to a different town to go see a theater, but do I rush out there and go see it to experience something, and do I have something to come home and talk about? And with this movie, I don't know. It didn't wow me. So I 100% completely agree with purchasing a Blu-ray though, because it's something that you want to experience the movie and you want to see the quality of the cinematography and what have you. And I would agree that Blu-ray is probably the best way to experience the movie. I think that you'll lose quality and everything if you stream it, and you don't really get the full effect. But yeah, that's where I land on that.
Right on. So that was our recommendation. Now we're going to transition to our spoiler segment. So going forward, we're going to have full spoilers for Murder on the Orient Express.
So at its core, Murder on the Orient Express, as you might expect, is a murder mystery. And as murder mysteries are wont to do, it poses the question, who done it?
And as we learn, the answer is they all done it. So yeah, I think you were kind of vaguely alluding to this without trying to give too much away. Yeah. But so it kind of sounded like you had some thoughts on this.
Yeah, the biggest problem I have is everybody stuck a knife in Johnny Depp. Every single person murdered him in his sleep.
I mean, it's Johnny Depp, so.
It is Johnny Depp. But what I'm getting at is for every character to drive a knife and they take turns holding him down, and it's a very brutal scene. It's pretty fucked up. I mean, not to say that Johnny Depp's not fucked up, because he's incredibly fucked up. But for each one of these people to have the justification to hold them down and murder all of them, I could just on a concept level, I could understand why they would want to do it. But I felt that because of the lack of characterization and the lack of time developing each one of these people, I had a hard time believing that all of them would. So whenever it delivered, all of them murdered him, I was just, okay.
Yeah, well, in the sense that, I mean, they're literally all murdering him. It's not right. It's not everyone's in on the scheme, which I think...
That's much more believable.
Sure, and I, to be fair, this is something that is based off of a 1930s novel, and I think there's certainly different sensibilities in a modern context compared to the time that it was written. And I can't obviously vouch for how close this is to the source material, but from what I can gather, it seems like it's pretty close. So I wonder if that perhaps is playing a factor here, but when you do look at it through a modern lens, it's kind of just like definitely is stretched in the realm of plausibility quite a bit, in the sense that, yeah, I mean, some of these motivations for a lot of these characters is flimsy at best. And for some, it's I don't know that you can necessarily justify murder per se, but you do understand where they're coming from, and obviously that kind of reaches its head by the end of the movie, which I'll kind of touch on in a second. But yeah, some of the characters is just, really?
Yeah,
it's kind of. I think he kind of just might wanted to kill someone, and this just took this as a good excuse to do so.
That, and Kenneth had he seemed like a light sleeper, and several times he popped his head out of his cabin to see what was going on because he heard a ruckus, and there's like 14 people running in and out of the room right next to him.
Right. I feel like there's probably some explanation I'm missing as far as why he was not cognizant of, literally the entire train somehow being in the compartment next to him or shuffling in and out very stealthily. I don't know if they were wearing all slippers or exactly what their master plan was, but for someone that, they distinctly and deliberately point out as, a light sleeper, and he pokes his head out 10 times, and he making noise, you making noise, no more noise, he does that a lot. And then for him to kind of just sleep through some dude getting stabbed, I mean, yeah, okay, they're covering Johnny Depp's mouth and everything, so he's not screaming, he's drugged up with the barbitol and all that, but still, people make noise when they move, especially on a train. So it does kind of, again, I think that's just something else that just, maybe it's just indicative of when it was written, and something that when you kind of put it in a visual form, it kind of comes off as a bit silly, and in the sense that things don't quite line up like maybe they should. But I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty fascinating way to take the story, to basically have everyone have some sort of intrinsic motivation for why they're part of this revenge scheme against Johnny Depp's character, who kidnapped a child for ransom, ended up murdering her, and he's a shitbag. I mean, there's no way to spin it. But I did enjoy that they each of these characters had some sort of plot thread that tied to this central element, and I enjoyed the way that Poirot kind of unraveled that. But I think it's kind of what you're getting at is the actual literal act of everyone being part of it was kind of, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a little too much.
I feel like if I was in a different age bracket, it could have been a very entertaining movie. You know what I mean? I wouldn't stare so much into what's plausible and what isn't plausible, and I think it would have probably been a much more entertaining movie at a different age level, I think. But another thing I had an issue with is there was the conclusion where he discovers that everybody's done it, and I don't know, it very much the framing of that shot where everybody's sitting at the table just reminded me of The Last Supper. For some reason, I don't know if that's intended or not, but just kind of all of it felt very contrived.
I mean, I will say I did enjoy kind of the framing of that whole sequence with him,
where they're all
confronting him all the table. I like that. I mean, there was something very unique about that I thought that maybe I'm just finding it difficult to reconcile. It just seems like sometimes it's a little more over the top in its plot, and then I'm trying to look at it from a realistic standpoint, and maybe I shouldn't be doing that, because I liked that little, I thought that was kind of fanciful the way that they handled that whole bit at the end.
And then he had that whole, I enjoyed the framing of the shot of his face where he kind of like screamed at him and stuff, and he was trying to put all the pieces together in his head. I did enjoy that shot, but I don't know. I just think it was a contrived movie. It was entertaining. It was fun. It was a fun mystery, is I guess the best way to put it.
So I'll kind of pose this question to you. So Poirot basically at the end decides to let everyone get away with it. He's basically deciding against basically his better judgment, where he to this point has always thought that there's black and white, there's right and wrong, and then he comes into this case where this family was very grievously injured by the act that Johnny Depp committed, and it affects all these lives in all these ways. And again, as we mentioned, some more than others, arguably. But for Poirot, a man who is so kind of ingrained in his beliefs, to basically say, I'm going to walk away from this, and hopefully this will bring you the comfort and the solace that you've been seeking for so long. I thought that was an interesting way to end it. I was just kind of curious to see if you, where you kind of weigh in on how he handled things. Is that something that you agree with this decision? I mean, do you think it worked for his character? Do you think it worked for the movie? Is this something that you personally agree with, or anything along those lines?
Well, the longer that I've sat on this, the more I have a hard time agreeing with it, A, just on a personal level, but B, as his character. His character is presented as somebody that's got severe, like a severe compulsive disorder. He's constantly telling people to straighten his tie. He measures the size of his eggs. He's a very granulated character, he sees every detail, and that's what makes him such a great detective. But, so when you look at it, if the character depth was there, then maybe I could understand it, but it wasn't. So I'm seeing these characters as how they were presented to me. And like you said earlier, some characters kind of feel like I feel like they just kind of, hey, listen, this is a good excuse to murder somebody. I'll throw. I don't like this guy. He's kind of a shitbag. I know what he did to you, so I'll stab him with you. Sure, it's kind of that guy right there. Justice should probably be handed to you. But maybe Michelle's Pfeiffer character. Maybe I can give her some leeway. You know what I mean? But he straight up lied to the authorities and let them all go. So I don't agree with him. I think that certain people are, and maybe you have to do all of them or none of them, I guess, maybe. But I have a problem with some of these characters committing the crime that they committed. because there was a lack of motivation there, in my opinion. How do you think about it? How do you feel about it?
I'd say you're pretty close to where I stand. I think it's interesting for his character. I guess if you want to take it from that perspective alone, I actually saw a comment online. I don't remember the source on this, so I apologize to whoever I'm stealing this from. But they mentioned that, you mentioned how his character was so focused on having the perfect eggs, and then, there's a point where he settles on having the eggs that aren't quite perfect, and, he makes a comment about that, and someone kind of online mentioned that was possibly foreshadowing his ability to... Things don't have to be exactly the way that they should be. His willingness to accept a gray area or something like that. And I thought that was actually a pretty interesting insight that the person had.
No, that is good.
It's nothing that I came up with myself, just for the record. But I thought that was pretty fascinating. On a personal level, and they all kind of killed a person, so yeah, they're all guilty as shit. I don't know. Certainly from his perspective, it is one of the things. He turns them all in. He's ruining 13 people's lives, but they all made a conscious decision to do what they did. And I on a purely sympathetic level, I understood kind of certainly some of the motivations. Michelle Pfeiffer's character, as you mentioned, probably the first and foremost. But
it's the Punisher Daredevil conundrum, isn't it?
Right. Well, I say I've always been more of a Daredevil guy, so. Maybe that's why I'm falling in line with that side of belief.
Hashtag Disney rules the world.
Yes, of course. So yeah, that's kind of probably where I would land on it. I'm curious to rewatch it at some point. I think probably when the Blu-ray drops or when it goes on sale at some point on Blu-ray.
Yeah, you can kind of sit there and inspect it.
Yeah. See if there's some other details and stuff. And I know, of course, Daisy Ridley's in it, so it's infinitely rewatchable, of course.
And she looks really pretty in this movie too. She's a very pretty lady.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, on a lighter note, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I went to Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure out in Orlando, Florida for a day.
Totally awesome.
Pretty awesome. You and I have been there quite frequently in our days in Florida, but we haven't been there in a while, and so there's been a couple new additions since we've last been. I think probably most notably there's a Kong ride that they added in Islands of Adventure, which it's not great. But
what kind of ride is it?
It's you're on like this Jeep thing, and it takes you through this little outdoorsy area of Skull Island, then it brings you inside this dark inside environment, and they have these kind of 3D screens on either side of you, kind of covering your entire field of vision, and then there's this big King Kong versus dinosaur battle that kind of unfurls and shakes you around, jostles you around, and it's kind of entertaining, but I was sitting towards the front, so it was kind of hard for me to crane my neck around and see exactly what was going on. I don't know. I feel like for rides, I enjoy having more practical effects, and it felt like I was just kind of watching a 3D movie, less than being in an actual ride type environment that simulates that.
Did it take over the Jurassic Park area?
No, Jurassic Park's still there.
Oh, okay, so it's its own thing.
It's
Is
actually,
it like a Jurassic Park?
It's right next to Jurassic Park, I think, in terms of the geography of the park. But and it kind of ends with this huge animatronic King Kong head that you kind of ride up right next against, and that was actually really cool and really, really awesome looking. So obviously they spent the most money on that part. But I mean, it's worth checking out, obviously, if you ever make your way over there again. Beyond that, there's a Jimmy Fallon thing that I didn't get a chance to do because I don't really care about Jimmy Fallon, to be honest. Doesn't do it for me. He's probably my least favorite late night host.
Have you ever rode the Jimmy Fallon ride?
No, I say it's new. It's new since I've been there. I just didn't feel compelled to wait for it. I had other shit I'd rather take care of.
What kind of wait's there for a Jimmy Fallon ride?
I didn't even look. I walked past it and didn't give it a second thought. I got an annual pass. I'll be back. I'm sure I'll do it at some point. So it wasn't on my priority list. But went to the Harry Potter land. Rode the rides there. Had some butterbeer. Had some actual beer. I went over to the Simpsons land. Had a Duff beer as well. So I had a good time.
Hell yeah, man. Have you been up on your Super Mario?
A little bit up on it. Probably not as much as you, if I were to hazard a guess. I'm at the Third Kingdom now, the Sand Kingdom. I probably put, I'd say 3 or 4 hours in it. I've spent a lot of time in the kingdoms I've had just trying to scour the lands for all the moons that I can get before I move on. and it's great. It's such a good game. I guess I talked about it last week, so I don't need to get too in depth with where I'm at with it. But I've got many hours ahead of me that I greatly look forward to. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Other than that, what else have I done this week? I saw Thor Ragnarok for a third time. I would recommend anyone that saw Thor Ragnarok check out our previous episode on it for our full thoughts on it. The only additional thought that I'll offer up for now is that I'm looking for new things in that as I watch it for this third time. And there's a few scenes I didn't catch kind of, I guess, maybe the first 2 times around where Meek, Korg's little bug buddy, he's just in the background just swinging around his swords and like kicking the air and shit. Like he does it like 5 times throughout the movie, and I fucking died every time I saw it this time around. I think I caught it the first time because that's his introduction, but beyond that, like every time he just shows up on the screen, he's doing that shit, and it's hilarious. So I greatly enjoyed Meek's presence and this viewing of Thor Ragnarok. And last but not least, I am through week 2 of all the CW television shows. Still, I guess, 3 weeks behind as of recording this. I'm working on catching up. I'm working on it. But I just want to do a brief update for my power rankings. So there's actually been no change here. Arrow's number 1, Legends of Tomorrow sitting at number 2, Riverdale at number 3, Supergirl at number 4, and The Flash at number 5. Although I did want to have a brief shout out. Been talking about Daisy Ridley and Cate Blanchett between this episode and the last. I have to admit that Melissa Benoist, who plays Supergirl, is also on my very long and ever-growing list of Hollywood crushes. She's way too good for that show. Oh my god, the writing lets her down so bad. I feel the same way actually about Kyler Lee, who plays her sister, Alex, on there as well. Like those two are way too good for the writing on that show. Benoist as Supergirl, she's gorgeous, yes, but she just has this charm to what she brings to the role, and she just fucking nails it. Like I wish that her personality is what we saw in Henry Cavill's Superman personality. Like she just absolutely nails it. And it's shocking to me that, even if the CW certainly falters in other aspects of writing, they can at least get her personality down so pat, and then the movie side of the universe just is completely fucking clueless. It just seems insane to me. But I digress. That's it for me. Let me turn the mic over to you, figuratively speaking, and ask you what you've been doing this past week.
The majority of my time spent this week was doing research on televisions and HDR. And
tell me more.
Stuff. You would like to know about HDR?
Oh, just maybe, for our listeners, if you want to give them a little rundown on what HDR is.
Okay.
Brief rundown.
Yes, HDR stands for High Dynamic Resolution, I believe.
Range.
High Dynamic Range?
Yep.
Okay, High Dynamic Range. And what it does is it, in a television sense, it calibrates the television settings for optimal color, and they're also the TVs that are HDR compatible. They have a higher range of color production. So I believe it's 10-bit is pretty much what you're going to get in a modern HDR TV now. There's different forms of HDR, almost like an HD DVD and Blu-ray kind of deal, because we're in an early iteration of HDR. And Dolby has come out with Dolby Vision, and you can get a select few products with Dolby Vision in it, which HDR is an open source program where it collects the data for your TV on a blanket scale. So, hey, this is what I'm watching, and this is the HDR settings for the television set, where Dolby Vision is a frame-by-frame dynamic metadata kind of deal. So it picks up each setting on a frame-by-frame basis. So, yeah. So I've been researching that shit and looking for compatible things because I've been spending money this week. I bought a TV I'm pretty excited about. I bought a 55-inch LG B7 OLED. And OLED's really pretty. I just set up the TV and it's pretty gorgeous. I would recommend anybody looking at TVs buy an OLED because they're really freaking pretty. And speakers and AVRs and stuff. I bought some speakers on eBay actually. Got a pretty good deal on them, and they should be getting shipped here soon. And so I'm pretty much everything's going in my bedroom. So I'm just trying to make my bedroom a place where I could watch shows and such. I have been playing some Super Mario Odyssey though, and I actually stumbled into I don't know what kingdom it would be, but it's almost like the hub world for it's Peach's Castle.
Probably the Mushroom Kingdom, right?
It's Mushroom Kingdom, that's it. Yeah, Mushroom Kingdom. From like it looked identical to the N64 version, and it's just it's a really cool game, man. And I actually don't play it as much as you would think. It's one of those games that if I have a couple minutes, I'm not really doing anything, I'll pick it up for 10, 15 minutes, and then I'll just turn off my Switch. But the controls and everything are so intuitive that it lends itself really well to picking it up in short bursts. Or if you want to grind it out and play it for hours, you can do that too. But it's not one of those games that if you revisit it after a couple of days of not playing it, you're going to be garbage at. So it's a very well-made game. I also picked up Lord of the Rings, the extended versions. I've never seen the extended versions of these movies, so I'm pretty hyped up to watch those. I'm actually probably going to watch them on the new TV, I think. We'll see what they look like. But I actually might get off of here and go watch one. We'll watch The Fellowship tonight. It's a 2-disc fucking movie, dude.
Yeah, they're all 2 discs. The LE extended ones are split across 2 discs. Yeah.
God damn, that's crazy.
I can't think of any other Blu-ray sets that are split that way. I mean, yeah, obviously for TV shows it's 4 episodes or something per disc, but to actually literally split a movie across discs, like that's some fucking VHS bullshit right there.
Imagine a 4K set of the extended versions. They'd end up being 3 or 4 discs per movie. It's crazy. Maybe not though. Maybe I don't know what kind of disc they use for this, but either way, doesn't make a difference. That's what I got. I'm going to start watching it, and we'll see how that goes. But other than that, that's pretty much all I've been up to this week.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess it's time for us to say goodbye, and we always like to begin that by extending our gratitude to our listeners for downloading our episodes or streaming it on Facebook, anything, however you guys listen to it. It's awesome. We offer it on so many platforms just to cater to everyone's needs and wants, and so for you guys to come back and listen to us, it means the world to us. So thank you for listening, and thank you for coming back every week. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Check us out at watchreviewrepeat.com if you want to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, send us an email. It's watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. You can leave us a review on iTunes, Google Play, Facebook. Like I said, however you guys listen to us, it's certainly going to be the most appropriate medium to take care of that. And
Amen.
That's it for the housekeeping. So it sounds like you got something to say.
I'm really pumped up about next week.
Yeah, I'm pretty
excited, my man.
Oh, you fucking stole my joke. I was gonna roll right into it. You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. I'm gonna drive down there and beat your ass for stealing my joke. Oh, I'm really sad. I'm definitely gonna. I like that. I mean, I'm gonna start next week with it. It's just gonna happen now because
I had a dream. It was a nightmare.
I'm Batman. Martha.
It's gonna be so bad. Oh fuck. Anyways, that's what we're covering. Are we covering it in IMAX? Are we getting together to watch this, or probably not?
No. I know. I still feel slightly guilty about forcing you to watch Inhumans in IMAX. So, I think I will actually personally catch it in IMAX because it's not much financial risk to me. But I'm certainly not going to ask you to put yourself through Justice League for, I guess, $20. If you choose to do that, again, you're accepting that at your own risk. So I leave that decision in your very capable hands.
I'm going to catch it with the movie pass.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right. That's probably the wisest thing to do. I think as of recording this, we're still waiting on the review embargo to lift. I think that's a couple days before release, which we'll see. That's your catchphrase. We'll see, man.
We'll see. All right.
But until then, it's going to be a good one. I think you guys are going to want to come back, good or bad. I think it's going to be a fun episode, certainly to record for us and for you guys to listen to. So that's it for me. You guys have a wonderful week. We'll catch you on the flip side for Justice League.
Talk to you later. Adios.